Ah, welcome back, you beautiful, uncontrollable mystery. Yeah, you. The one they've been dissecting in private. The one whose name keeps showing up in conversations you were never meant to see. Let me tell you something that's going to twist your stomach and light your soul on fire at the same time. There's a group chat. Yeah, a whole thread. Messages stacked like evidence in a case they've been building against you for months. And guess what? Someone just leaked the screenshots. Someone on the inside finally grew a conscience, or maybe just got bored of the performance. And now the curtain's been ripped back, and everything they said when you weren't looking is bleeding into the light. You ever wonder why certain people got quiet around you? Why conversations shifted when you walked into the room? Why eyes darted like scared animals caught in headlights whenever your name came up? It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't in your head. They were coordinating, planning, analyzing your every move, like you were some kind of experiment they needed to contain. They had theories about you, predictions about when you'd break, bets on how long you'd last before you finally cracked under the pressure they were secretly applying. And the wildest part? You kept walking forward anyway. You kept building, kept rising, kept becoming something they couldn't predict or control. And that drove them absolutely insane. The screenshots don't lie, do they? You've seen them now, or you've heard about them, or maybe you just feel it in the way the energy shifted. Suddenly, people are apologizing who never apologized before. Suddenly, people are reaching out after months of radio silence. Suddenly, everyone's playing damage control, trying to rewrite history, trying to convince you it wasn't that serious, trying to gaslight you into believing your instincts were wrong. But your instincts were never wrong. Your gut knew. Your body knew. You felt the betrayal before you had the proof. And now the proof is screaming in pixels and timestamps that can't be deleted fast enough. Let me paint the picture for you, because this is important. They sat there, night after night, in their little echo chamber of mediocrity, dissecting you. They analyzed your posts like they were scholars. They laughed at your ambitions like they were jokes. They mocked your pain like it was entertainment. They called you crazy, obsessed, too much, not enough, dramatic, unstable, delusional. And all the while, you were out there actually living, actually building, actually becoming the thing they were too scared to attempt themselves. They needed you to fail because your success made their excuses obsolete. They needed you to break because your strength exposed their weakness. Here's what really happened though, and this is where it gets beautiful. While they were busy talking, you were busy transforming. While they were screen sharing your stories with mocking commentary, you were leveling up in silence. While they were predicting your downfall in a group chat they thought was secure, you were building an empire they'll never infiltrate. They thought they were the investigators, but they were just spectators. They thought they were in control of the narrative, but you were writing a whole different story they didn't even know existed. And now they're the ones scrambling. Now they're the ones panicking. Now they're the ones realizing that every word they typed in that chat just became evidence of their own emptiness. Let's talk about what was really happening in that group chat, because this goes deeper than gossip. This was a ritual. This was their way of feeling powerful when they felt powerless. This was how they convinced themselves they were smarter, better, more stable than you. Every message was a little dose of superiority. They injected into their veins to numb the ache of their own stagnation. They needed to tear you down in private because they couldn't face you in public. They needed to create this alternate reality where you were the problem, because admitting you weren't would mean confronting the fact that they were. The messages probably started small, didn't they? Little observations, little jokes, little moments of shared confusion about why you do what you do. But then it escalated. It always does. Someone said something slightly harsher, and everyone else piled on because that's what groups do when they're hunting something. They turned you into their common enemy, their shared project, the thing that united them when nothing else did. You became the glue that held their fractured friendships together. And the sickest part? They probably convinced themselves they were doing it out of concern. They probably told each other they were just worried about you, just trying to understand you, just keeping tabs to make sure you were okay. But let's be honest. Concern doesn't laugh. Concern doesn't mock. Concern doesn't screenshot your vulnerable moments and turn them into group entertainment. Concern doesn't place bets on your mental health. Concern doesn't create inside jokes at your expense. This wasn't concern. This was contempt wrapped in curiosity. This was fear disguised as friendship. This was envy performing as empathy. They wanted to dissect you because they couldn't become you. They wanted to understand your mind because theirs felt empty in comparison. They wanted to predict your next move because watching you move freely made them feel trapped in their own lives. You know what's fascinating though? They talked about you constantly, but they never talked to you honestly. They had all these theories, all these opinions, all these judgments, but none of them had the courage to bring any of it to your face. They hid behind screens and encryption and private threads because confrontation would require authenticity, and authenticity would require them to admit they were projecting. Every criticism they lobbed at you in that chat was just a confession of their own insecurities typed in your name. Every flaw they claimed you had was just a mirror reflecting what they hated about themselves. And here's the thing that's going to twist the knife a little deeper. They weren't just talking about your mistakes. They were talking about your wins too, maybe even more so. They dissected your successes like forensic scientists looking for evidence of fraud. They couldn't believe you earned it, so they had to create alternative explanations. Luck, connections, manipulation, anything but the truth, which is that you worked while they watched. You built while they critiqued. You moved while they stayed frozen in their comfortable little judgmental circle, refreshing your page like it was their job. You became the main character in their story, and they didn't even realize they were just extras in yours. Now someone leaked it. Someone hit send on those screenshots and let them loose into the world like a virus they can't contain. And suddenly, everything shifted. Suddenly, the people who were laughing in the group chat are sweating in their inboxes. Suddenly, the ones who were so bold in private are apologizing in public. Suddenly, everyone who participated in that months-long psychological dissection is scrambling to control the narrative, rewrite their involvement, distance themselves from the worst messages. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots live forever. And now their words are immortalized in pixels they can't delete, can't edit, can't explain away. You want to know what's really happening right now? They're terrified. Not because they got caught talking badly about you. People talk badly about people all the time. They're terrified because the leak exposed something much worse than gossip. It exposed their obsession. It revealed that you weren't just a topic of conversation. You were the main event. You were the content. You were the thing they thought about more than they thought about their own lives. And now everyone can see it. Now everyone knows they spent months, maybe longer, fixated on you while you barely thought about them at all. The power dynamic just flipped so violently, they got whiplash. They thought they were in control because they had the group chat, the inside jokes, the shared understanding. They thought they were the ones with power because they had each other and you were alone. But the leak proved something they never wanted anyone to know. You didn't need them. You never did. You were out here thriving in your solitude while they needed a whole support group just to process your existence. You were living rent-free in their heads while they couldn't afford a second thought in yours. And now that truth is public, permanent, undeniable. Let's talk about the person who leaked it though, because this is important. Whoever sent those screenshots out into the world, they saw something the others didn't. Maybe they grew a conscience. Maybe they got tired of the performance. Maybe they realized they were participating in something ugly and wanted out. Or maybe, and this is the theory that should keep the others up at night, maybe they were loyal to you all along. Maybe they were in that group chat gathering evidence. Maybe they were playing the long game, waiting for the perfect moment to expose everyone involved. Maybe they were the mole you didn't even know you had, and now everyone's wondering who else might be watching. The paranoia that leak created is more destructive than any revenge you could have planned yourself. Now they're suspicious of each other. Now they're rereading old messages, wondering who screenshotted what. Now they're deleting conversations and leaving group chats and trying to preemptively apologize to anyone who might have seen the leak. Now they're turning on each other the way they turned on you. Because that's what happens when a group built on betrayal realizes betrayal works both ways. You didn't even have to do anything. The leak did the work for you. Karma, wearing a hoodie and holding receipts, just walked into their lives and set everything on fire. Let's decode some of those messages, because words mean things, and the things they said reveal more about them than they ever revealed about you. When they called you intense, what they meant was you made them feel shallow. When they called you too much, what they meant was they weren't enough. When they called you dramatic, what they meant was your emotions reminded them they'd gone numb. When they said you'd changed, what they meant was you outgrew them and they couldn't keep up. Every insult was a confession. Every criticism was projection. Every joke at your expense was just pain. They didn't know how to process finding a target. They probably said you were obsessed, didn't they? Obsessed with your goals, your vision, your growth. Meanwhile, they were literally in a group chat about you for months. They were screenshotting your posts, analyzing your captions, tracking your moves, discussing your every decision like sports commentators calling a game, and they called you obsessed. The irony is so thick, you could build a house on it. They were so consumed by you, they created a whole digital space just to contain their feelings about your existence, and somehow you were the problem. Make it make sense. They talked about your confidence like it was arrogance. They dissected your self-assurance like it was a character flaw. They mocked your belief in yourself like it was delusion. But here's what they couldn't admit. Your confidence wasn't arrogance. It was just unshakable self-knowledge in a world full of people who barely know themselves. Your self-assurance wasn't a flaw. It was a threat to people who needed you to doubt yourself so they could feel better about their own insecurities. Your belief in yourself wasn't delusion. It was clarity they couldn't comprehend because they'd never experienced it. When they said you were cold, what they really meant was you stopped being their emotional dumping ground. When they said you'd become distant, what they really meant was you set boundaries they weren't used to respecting. When they said you'd turned into someone they didn't recognize, what they really meant was you'd stopped performing the version of yourself they found comfortable. You stopped shrinking. You stopped apologizing for taking up space. You stopped making yourself smaller so they could feel bigger. And that loss of control over you felt like betrayal to them, so they rebranded your growth as your problem. Here's the translation key for that entire group chat. Every time they criticized you, insert the phrase, "and that makes me feel inadequate," at the end of their sentence, and suddenly everything makes sense. You're too focused on your goals, and that makes me feel inadequate because I'm not focused on mine. You're too confident, and that makes me feel inadequate because I'm constantly doubting myself. You're too independent, and that makes me feel inadequate because I'm codependent on validation from others. The whole conversation was never about you. It was always about them. You were just the mirror they couldn't stop looking into, hating what they saw and blaming the reflection. Here's what most people don't understand about group chats like this. They're not just gossip sessions. They're psychological warfare campaigns disguised as friendship. They're collective gaslighting operations where everyone validates everyone else's distorted perceptions until those perceptions feel like objective truth. They needed that group chat to maintain their version of reality, because your actual reality was too threatening to acknowledge. You were succeeding where they'd failed. You were healing where they were still wounded. You were moving forward while they were trapped in cycles they couldn't break. So they created this alternate narrative where you were the unstable one, the problematic one, the one who needed to be analyzed and contained. They took your strengths and reframed them as weaknesses. They took your growth and repackaged it as instability. They took your boundaries and reinterpreted them as coldness. And they did this collectively, reinforcing each other's biases, building an echo chamber where their version of you became more real to them than the actual you. That's not friendship. That's a conspiracy theory about a real person. And you were the subject they spent months trying to debunk. The most insidious part. They probably convinced themselves they were being objective. They probably told each other they were just calling it like they saw it, just being honest, just keeping it real. But there's nothing honest about dissecting someone behind their back. There's nothing real about creating a false narrative in private while smiling in public. There's nothing objective about a group of people who need you to be broken to justify their own dysfunction. They weren't truth seekers. They were comfort seekers. And the only comfort they could find was in tearing you down to a level where they didn't feel so far behind. You want to know what they were really doing in that chat? They were trying to make sense of you using frameworks that don't apply to people who've transcended their level of thinking. They were trying to understand your moves using logic that only applies to people who play small. They were trying to predict your future using patterns that only exist in people who repeat their past. You confused them because you didn't fit their models. You scared them because you broke their predictions. You threatened them because you proved that everything they believed about limitations was just a lie they'd accepted to avoid the discomfort of growth. And the saddest part, while they were in that group chat trying to decode you, you were out here decoding yourself. While they were analyzing your every move, you were moving beyond analysis into pure action. While they were discussing your potential like it was up for debate, you were actualizing it in real time. They were spectators, pretending to be judges, critics, pretending to be friends, observers, pretending to be participants. And all the while, you were the only one actually in the arena, bloody and scarred and still standing, while they sat in the bleachers with their popcorn and their screenshots and their false sense of superiority. Now, the screenshots are out. Now, the masks are off. Now, everyone knows what was happening in the dark. And the aftermath is more brutal than anyone expected, because exposure does something chemical to group dynamics. The people in that chat are imploding. Some are apologizing. Some are deflecting. Some are disappearing entirely. Some are trying to paint themselves as the reasonable ones who never really agreed with the worst messages. Some are throwing each other under the bus, trying to save their own reputation. And some, the really bold ones, are still trying to gaslight you into believing it wasn't that bad, wasn't that serious, wasn't that deep. But you know what you're doing right now? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that silence is more powerful than any response you could give. You're not defending yourself because you don't need to. The screenshots defend themselves. You're not arguing with anyone because you've transcended the need to be understood by people who were never trying to understand you anyway. You're not seeking apologies because you know they'd be empty, performative, driven by exposure rather than genuine remorse. You're just existing. Just continuing to build, just moving forward like none of this even registered as a blip on your radar. And that indifference is driving them crazier than any confrontation ever could. They expected you to explode. They expected tears, rage, a public meltdown they could screenshot and add to their collection of evidence that you're unstable. They wanted you to confirm their narrative by reacting exactly the way they predicted, but you didn't. You saw the leak, processed it, and kept walking. You didn't give them the satisfaction of your pain. You didn't give them the ammunition of your anger. You just absorbed it, integrated it, and used it as fuel in a fire they'll never see until it's too late. And that restraint, that control, that absolute refusal to perform the breakdown they choreographed for you, that's what's killing them right now. Here's what's happening in their private DMs right now. Guaranteed panic. Pure, unfiltered panic. They're trying to figure out who leaked it. They're trying to control the damage. They're trying to craft apologies that sound sincere enough to save face, but vague enough to avoid taking real accountability. They're texting each other in smaller, more paranoid groups, wondering if those conversations will leak too. They're deleting old messages. They're leaving group chats. They're blocking people preemptively. They're spiraling in the exact chaos they tried to create for you. And the poetry of that reversal is almost too perfect. Meanwhile, you're over here realizing something profound. You don't need closure from people who never gave you honesty. You don't need apologies from people who aren't actually sorry they hurt you, just sorry they got caught. You don't need explanations from people whose explanations would just be more manipulation. You don't need anything from them because somewhere along the way, you stopped defining your worth by their perception. You stopped measuring your reality by their validation. You stopped letting their presence or absence affect your trajectory. And that independence, that complete emotional detachment from their opinion, is the ultimate power move they never saw coming.